You walk into a store, you hand the cashier a piece of paper or tap a small plastic card. You walk out with bread, coffee, batteries, whatever you needed. This entire interaction is built on a story you were told in school. The story goes like this. A long time ago, humans lived in villages. They needed things from each other, so they traded. A farmer would give a cow to a blacksmith in exchange for tools. But this got complicated. What if the blacksmith didn't want a cow? What if the farmer needed an axe but only had wheat? So humans invented money to make trade easier. Coins were created. Civilization advanced. The end. It's a clean story. It's in every economics textbook. It's been repeated for over 200 years. It's also completely false. There was no barter problem. There was no village where people couldn't figure out how to trade. Money wasn't invented to solve a trade inefficiency. Something much stranger happened. Let's start with what the anthropologists actually found. In 1985, Cambridge anthropologist Caroline Humphrey published a paper that quietly demolished the foundation of modern economics. She had spent years studying societies that were supposed to use barter, the small, pre-modern, non-monetary groups that economists used as their core example. And she wrote very carefully that no example of a barter economy, pure and simple, has ever been described, let alone the emergence from it of money. Read that again. No example. Ever. For 200 years, every economist from Adam Smith forward had assumed that pre-money societies operated through barter. But when anthropologists actually went and looked, they couldn't find one. Not in Africa, not in Polynesia, not in the Amazon, not anywhere on Earth. So if humans didn't barter, what did they do? The answer is the most important thing about money that almost no one knows. For most of human history, humans traded through credit and debt. Not coins, not gold, not silver. They tracked who owed what to whom, and they did it in their heads, in conversations, on bones, on sticks, on clay tablets, for thousands of years before anything we'd recognize as money existed. Anthropologist David Graeber spent years documenting this. His research showed that the earliest economic systems in human history weren't transactional. They were relational. If you needed something, you asked for it. If someone had it, they gave it to you. And somewhere in the back of everyone's mind, a running tally got kept. You needed an axe. Your neighbor had 2. He gave you 1. You owed him. Maybe you'd repay it next month when you slaughtered a pig. Maybe you'd repay it next year when his roof needed fixing. Maybe you'd never repay it directly. You'd just be expected to give freely the next time someone needed something. The debt was tracked, but it didn't need to be settled at the moment of exchange. This is how humans lived for tens of thousands of years. Now here's where it gets strange. The actual mechanism for tracking debt in early societies wasn't fancy. It was profoundly simple. People used tally sticks. A tally stick was a piece of wood, usually hazel, with notches carved into it. Each notch represented an amount owed. When someone took out a debt, the stick was split lengthwise. Each party kept half. The notches matched up exactly because they were the same stick. You couldn't fake it. You couldn't forge it. The two halves either fit together or they didn't. England used tally sticks as a primary financial instrument until 1834. For roughly 700 years, the entire British treasury ran on notched pieces of wood. When the system was finally abandoned, they burned the old sticks in the basement of Parliament. The fire got out of control and burned the Palace of Westminster to the ground. That's how recent this was. But tally sticks were just one tool. In ancient Mesopotamia, the system was even more sophisticated. Around 5,000 years ago, Sumerian temple administrators developed an elaborate accounting system. They tracked every grain of wheat owed, every goat lent, every laborer's day of work, using clay tablets covered in tiny wedge-shaped marks. This is where writing was actually invented, not to record poetry, not to write down laws, to track debt. The first written documents in human history are receipts. And here's the part that's hard to absorb. These Sumerians didn't have coins. They had no physical currency. They had a unit of account, the shekel. But the shekel wasn't a coin. It was a weight of barley, A debt was tracked in shekels, but it could be paid in almost anything of equivalent value: grain, beer, oil, sheep, labor, fish. The number was the money. The thing exchanged was just whatever you happened to have. For about 2,000 years, this is how the most advanced civilization on Earth ran its economy. No coins, just numbers and trust. So when did actual physical money show up? The answer is around 600 BCE in a kingdom called Lydia, in what's now Western Turkey. The first coins were small lumps of electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver, stamped with the seal of the king. And they didn't appear because trade had become too complicated. They appeared because of armies. Graeber's analysis is precise on this point. Coins were invented to pay soldiers. A standing army needs to be paid in something portable, durable, and universally accepted. You can't pay a soldier in cattle. He can't carry it. You can't pay him in credit. He's not staying around long enough for the tally to be settled. You need something he can take with him to a market in a foreign town and use to buy bread. That something was a coin. And here's what's strange. Coins didn't replace credit. They existed alongside it for thousands of years. The vast majority of economic activity, neighbors helping neighbors, merchants extending credit, peasants owing landlords, kept running on the old system of tracked debt. Coins were specifically for situations where trust didn't exist yet: foreign trade, paying mercenaries, buying from strangers. In your village, you didn't need coins. Everyone knew everyone. Everyone tracked who owed what. Coins were for outsiders. This is the part of the story that gets erased. We grew up being told that money is what made civilization possible, that before money, trade was inefficient and people lived in poverty. But the actual record shows the opposite. Civilizations built temples, cities, irrigation systems, written language, and astronomical observatories, all without coins. They did it on credit, they did it on relationships, they did it on the human capacity to remember who owed what and to trust that it would eventually be paid. The barter problem that money supposedly solved was never a real problem. It was a thought experiment Adam Smith proposed in 1776 to explain where money came from. He had no evidence for it. He just assumed it must have happened that way because it made logical sense from inside the worldview of a society that already used money. Every economist after him repeated the story. None of them checked. For 200 years, the foundational myth of economics was something that had never existed. Here's the part that's genuinely uncomfortable. The shift from credit to coin wasn't just a technical change, it changed what humans valued. In a credit economy, your worth was tied to your reputation. People helped you because they trusted you. You helped them because the relationship mattered. The economy was woven into the social fabric. When coins replaced credit, something fundamental broke. Now you could buy bread from someone who didn't know you and might never see you again. You didn't need a reputation, you needed a coin. And once you had a coin, the relationship was over the moment the transaction ended. We call that progress. We call the old system primitive. But for tens of thousands of years, the most successful economic system humans ever built ran on no money at all. Just memory, just trust, just the understanding that you were part of a web of obligations that extended in every direction. And that web didn't need a coin to work, it just needed people who remembered.